Fine morning, no frost, no rain, no earthquakes. So, Havelock Road again, the river. This used to be the red light district of town many years ago. It's now a very fine, upstanding residential area frequented by fine gentlemen like me. Not. We're going to go left. We're going to go and look at a place called Fort Canning, which used to be called Government Hill. And before that, the name escapes me, but it is a site of reverence. Be that for its now modern look of very green and beautiful, with its verdant slopes of fine trees. It was actually an original site of an attempt at botanical gardens, which is now located somewhere else. It's very splendid indeed. We've got the usual perpetual traffic lights holding us up. The curse of Singapore. There's Hill Street Station. It used to be a police station. It's not any longer. It's a government building, but it's very nice, pretty. Taking a left turn. There's Fort Canning on my left. Fort Canning Park. It is a hill. It's not a mountain range. It's a nice one. This is a very historical fire station we're passing here. Coleman Street, we'll talk about that. Probably, no, not that one, next one. Coleman Street. George Coleman was Irish, English or whatever, and he was an architect, and he designed a lot of the original colonial buildings here in Singapore. And he is buried up on Fort Canning in what was the Christian cemetery there. That's what we're going to have a closer look at. But the cemetery was turned into a green, which is now very splendid to go and sit on, and weddings and so on. But the site, before it became a Christian cemetery, the site was a burial ground for ancient kings, some of whom are still highly revered today. This is a beautiful building, the National Museum of Singapore. Anyway, we're going to talk a bit about pandemics, because 19th century Singapore and the world, in fact, really, Singapore was not immune to a variety of pandemics, not least of which was cholera, that impacted here heavily throughout the 1800s at different times, reaping havoc. I think the first major one was 1851. We're going to go up here. 1851, there was a few hundred deaths, mostly in an area which we're going to go to a bit later, called Kampong Glam, an area set aside for the Muslim community. The death rate associated with cholera in those days was very high. So I think in the 1851 outbreak, something like more than 50% of the people who got sick died. Some of them are interred up here. There was another big outbreak in 1874, I think it was. That was even worse. Much higher attrition rate. So there's the green through that thing there, and the walls there are, we'll show you some pictures of those. The walls are liberally decorated with the tombstones of those who perished there, mostly Europeans, but also Chinese Christians. So the pandemic of 1874 had an even higher attrition rate, and then there was another one later in the century, early 1900s, and also devastating. But we're going to pull in just here, and then we'll have a walk and show you more. So talk later. Ooh, steady Andy on your old pegs. And the red lights have gone off on the bike, that is, not they have gone off in the other sense of the word in Singapore as pandemic has closed everything down. So cholera in the 19th century, worldwide it killed millions. I think in India it was a disease that originated in the Ganges Delta in the early 1800s, or the Ganges River rather, and it puzzled people for a long time as to what caused it. All sorts of weird and wonderful remedies were proposed, taking turpentine to camphor to peppermint to you name it. Whiskey seemed to have been one of the more successful ones. Actually, the most successful remedies were often local ones, and they were basically nothing much more than boiled water infused with various things that mimicked, I suppose, salts and glucose, a la sort of rehydration therapy. What they didn't really know for a long time was that cholera was a disease borne by water, contamination, poor hygiene, poor sanitary conditions. Well, there wasn't any. They thought it was the stench of the air, which obviously smelt pretty horrible in these parts. No sanitation. The Singapore River was allegorized, is that the right word? No, analogized, made an analogy of to the River Thames. There's Fort Canning Hotel, nice building, good restaurant there. And it wasn't really until a guy called Koch, great name, great man, Louis Pasteur, then discovered a vaccine for what was recognized as a bacteria. Left Andy. There's Parliament, bastion of seat of power of Singapore. Oh, I'm not allowed down there. This building on my right here, waiting for him to get out of the way, is old building. It used to be the Supreme Court. It isn't anymore. it didn't come out quite where I intended, but not to worry. I was hoping to park just over there, but never mind. Anyway, we'll try to work our way around. Fine view, there's the Swiss Hotel. It used to be one of the tallest buildings in town. Probably still is one of the tallest in town. Nice hotel. Used to be a good disco nightclub on the top. Suppose it's closed in this pandemic. So the old pandemic, cholera. Yeah, so there's a lot of parallels there. They did all sorts of things to try to get rid of the thing. For early on a Saturday morning and not much traffic, it's quite astonishing what is out on the road getting in the way. Is he going left or right or nowhere? There's one of my other offices up there. We're going over the bridge at Esplanade. We'll come back on the right. There is Esplanade Park, and I want to have a look at that. But what a great view. Yeah, there's the hotel, Marina Bay Sands complex. Get out of the way of the guy behind us, halting me, getting my coffee quickly. Another man in lycra there on the left. It's quite popular this time of day. It's not as busy. This used to be the coastline. So along the left there was the wharf, essentially, or here. No longer. Wow, a green traffic light. I haven't seen one of those for a while. Let's ride! Coffee time! So they tried all sorts of things to try to stem the tide of cholera. The one that was successful in the end was, of course, putting in modern sewage systems. There were some interim acts. Reverend Moole from England invented a dry toilet that basically, you know, you poop into a bucket and it's then covered up automatically, sort of, with soil. Then at night the buckets were taken away by poor unfortunate gentlemen who had to carry them, dump them somewhere in a field. I mean, it was a form of manure, I suppose, but pretty hard work, not very nice. I wouldn't do it. So cholera went away once they invented a vaccine, once they put in decent sewage and understood more about how this darn thing worked. They even tried quarantine. There's an island called St. John's just off the coast, and they had a lazaretta there. I think one of the islands is called Lazarus Island. I don't know, biblical or whether after the lazaretta, the quarantine hospital. And that all sounds very familiar, doesn't it? Quarantine, vaccines, skepticism. They even had people parading around the streets from different communities, banging drums and cymbals and shouting and wailing to get rid of the evil spirits that caused cholera, to no avail other than to keep people awake at night, I suppose. Maybe it made people feel better. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to run around the streets and wail and scream today. We're only allowed to meet one other person in a coffee shop and have one other person to our house twice a day. Yeah, all a bit frustrating. Anyway, the coffee shops are open. Their water, I hope, is sanitary. Mr. Harley Davidson is going to have a quick nap here whilst I get some breakfast.
Light me up, don't you stop, 'cause 'cause tonight it's on the line. Show me how you get on down. Close my eyes, take me for a ride.